Thanks so much for joining us today about how to be a good reviewer for the NASPA Annual Conference. And as you may know, we are in Los Angeles for the 2019 NASPA Annual Conference, so we're really excited that we'll be in sunny California. During this briefing, we'll talk a little bit about the NASPA Annual Conference, about how we're closing out the 100th anniversary for the NASPA Association, a little bit about our guiding principles and the foci of the 2019 conference, how to actually apply to be a reviewer, and then reviewing programs and giving feedback, and overall the reviewing process and timeline. So we'll get started, and as I mentioned, we are in LA, and so our lovely 2019 annual conference logo is a little bit retro. We're looking forward to being in sunny LA. As you can see, there's some palm trees and wonderful sunny skies. So we look forward to welcoming everyone to Region 6 out there in California. As you can see, we have LAX. It's a great place to fly into for the conference, and also it's only about 20 minutes from the John Wayne International Airport as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the three focus areas, because as you review the programs, every program is going to be asked questions underneath each one of these focus areas. So the first one is belonging and student success. And as student affairs professionals, we must continue to think about transforming our institutions into environments where we are student ready. We must explore the necessary conditions to require and develop imaginative, responsible, future-oriented, and risk-taking solutions to some really intractable, what seems like intractable problems. The next content area is community and democratic engagement. We're asking people to submit programs really about the democratic process, how universities can engage students across difference in meaningful ways, how we can create an environment where we assist students in navigating the complex world of activism and democratic engagement. This focus area provides an opportunity for presenters to talk about all the ways student affairs educators are making a difference in the future citizens of our global community. From talking about student activism to purposeful engagement, a lot of the programs that will be submitted and that you'll be reviewing will focus on this aspect of community and democratic engagement. And the last focus area is leaning forward to the next 100 years. As I mentioned at the very beginning, in 2019, we're going to finish off our 100 years as an association, that celebration, and we're moving into the 101st year. We've evolved from the early beginnings of student development and student personnel into student success. And we're looking forward to looking at how we can engage and move forward in the higher education community. So hopefully the folks who submit programs that you'll be reviewing will talk a little bit about the future of student affairs. The other parts of the review process, you'll also be asked to connect to NASPA guiding principles. We have 4 guiding principles, and we'll want you to make sure that you take a look at these before you start reviewing. Integrity, innovation, inclusion, and inquiry are our 4 guiding principles. Programs will be asked to select 1 or 2 of these guiding principles and describe why their program fits in this area. Both the focus areas and the guiding principles are something that you'll want to take a look at, to read and get in your brain before you start reviewing the 9 to 10 programs that you'll be reviewing. Before reading all your programs, you'll want to make sure to visit the Call for Programs website, because all that I just talked about is outlined on the Call for Programs website. You can click on the program, see all the questions, click on the accordion buttons to see all the questions that we are able to ask the presenters to answer, and then also you'll be able to see the NASPA guiding principles. It's really simple to join the reviewer ranks by completing an online application. The application requires you to complete a reviewer profile that asks for your expertise and knowledge in certain areas. This will allow us to match you with your programs that meet your qualifications and skills. You go to the NASPA engagement page, enter your username and password, which is your NASPA username and password, and then you select the program types you want to review. This program type selection process is very important. You'll want to make sure that you look at all the different program types that are available to review. You can review pre-conference workshops, which are either full or half day. Those workshops will need to have robust descriptions about how they're going to use 3 to 6 hours of time within an educational program offering. There also are constituent-based programs, constituent-sponsored programs. That means that someone has submitted a program under a knowledge community, a division, or a group that they're interested in having sponsor those programs. You can select constituent-sponsored programs and then select one of the knowledge communities or the small colleges and universities division or professional standards division or one of the many others that are engaged in the submission process and the sponsoring process. You can also review Essay Speaks and other types of programs, including poster sessions and scholarly papers. Scholarly papers can only be reviewed by those with an EDD or a PhD, as those programs are asked to review papers that will eventually be submitted to discussants for their review process. It's easy to find the Call for Review conference website. So if you can click on Program and Events, and then you can hover over Programs and Events, and you'll see Review Programs. You'll scroll down to apply to be a reviewer, and then log into the NASPA engagement portal. When you log in, you're going to be asked to click on your reviewer profile in order to select the content areas, program types, the guiding principles, the target groups, and a few other areas in order for us to match you with programs. You can see that there's also institutional types here. So if you are from a community college, a large institution, a minority serving institution, a for-profit, etc., you want to make sure that you select those, and then you click Save Preferences. If you've submitted a program for the NASPA Annual Conference, you'll also notice that these program types are very similar to the others that you would submit for a regular program. This is by design because we're going to be able to match you with programs that connect. You'd also be asked to connect to professional competencies. There are 10 professional competencies in the ACPA NASPA competencies for student affairs educators. Program submissions are also asked to select one or two of the professional competencies that their program content matches. They're also asked to discuss whether or not, check off whether or not it's a foundational, intermediate, or advanced. This helps us sort these programs and make sure that there's content for all different experience levels at the NASPA Annual Conference. As I mentioned, there are pre-conference workshops, poster sessions, general interest sessions, and KC sponsored, so Essay Speaks and scholarly paper sessions. When you go to the reviewer profile, you'll see a little area here that's circled that says click here to apply and update your application, and you'll make sure you'll go through all of those different content areas so that we can make sure we match you with the right people and right programs. An important note here is that you must select at least one program type to be considered to be a reviewer. Sometimes people go in and fill out the profile and fail to select one of the program types. If you select constituent group sponsored, make sure that you select a knowledge community or a group in order to review for those content areas or program areas. So let's talk a little bit about effective reviews. We really want these reviews to help coordinating presenters to improve their program, apply your expertise to help others, and make sure that you're assisting in maintaining a rigorous peer review process that will help the conference leadership committee select the best content for the 2019 conference. It's also an opportunity for you to maintain awareness of new and emerging promising practices, research, and engagements in student affairs. The review process should be considered a conversation between the author, the reviewer, and the conference committee to determine if a program should be included and how it can be improved and what impact it can have on the participants in Los Angeles. Peer review is a matter of subjective opinion combined with lived experiences. You're being asked to give your opinion, your own personal opinion about the quality of the program's content. During this process, you'll want to make sure that you have a few pieces in place for each of these reviews. You want to make sure that the review is clear, that's very specific, that it's professional, that it's balanced, fair, and that you give actionable and specific information to the presenter in order for them to make changes for their program. You'll of course want to make sure that it's a well-written review. Please do not submit reviews with spelling errors and other incorrect language, it's important that we maintain our scholar practitioner personas as we review these programs. Other effective proposals include information relevant to NASPA guiding principles, as mentioned, integrity, innovation, inclusion, and inquiry. But there's a solid foundation for proposal content. This means that within the description, there's a solid information, there's references, there is content that is either through data from the program itself or references as to why the program should be accepted. We want to make sure that it adheres to the program submission guidelines. You can see those guidelines on the NASPA Annual Conference website, that the program itself is reflective of good writing practices, that it's not misspelled or truncated in any way. Ultimately, we have all the programs reviewed to make sure that they are complete before they are sent off to you as a reviewer, but it's important that you make sure that you review them for their writing skills as well. An important aspect of conference sessions is that there are multiple perspectives from different institutions, from different types of individuals, and that the program itself has a varied aspect of who is actually presenting. Our programs are not a blind review. You can actually see who is presenting the program, but it's really more about how the program is presented from the perspectives of those from different institutions or from different walks of life. Program titles should be about 150 characters, abstracts about 75 words, and the program outline and descriptions really can vary because it's going to describe either a 3-hour pre-conference workshop or a 6-hour pre-conference workshop or 50-minute sessions. That program outline really should also allow you to understand what is actually happening in that 50-minute session. There should be a description of how long they're going to talk in the opening session, what kind of interactivity there might be within that conference session, and then what other kinds of activities they'll do in order to engage the audience. The presenter information is important. As mentioned, it's not a blind review, but it's an opportunity to see the experience of those individuals. There's a small bio that's shared within the program submission process that will give you the background of those presenters. And again, we like to see multiple perspectives in a program. So we're going to just talk a little bit more specifically about what it means to be clear within your program review. You want to make sure that you're very specific. Don't just say, I don't like it. That's not helpful to the program. You'd want to make sure that you say this program needs additional content or needs additional research to be pertinent to the field or whatever else might be the basis of that program. We want to make sure that it's detail-oriented. Connect your comments to the content. Don't make general statements. So just don't say the data just isn't there, but say something like, I found the data regarding student leaders' decisions lacking. The program would be stronger if there were specific data on that aspect of the program. Think about your perspective when you're submitting a program or you're trying to get feedback to understand how to make something better. You want to make sure that you're being very specific as you go through and write. You want to make sure you're being professional. You want to make sure that you're very keen on giving good and kind feedback to people. You want to make sure that your comments are specific to the experience of that professional, but also that there's some advice that you're giving to others as they are really providing a service to the profession by submitting a program. Again, you want to make sure that we are continuing the learning in this profession. We must provide very specific information to help to improve the program, engage in the learning. So it'd be helpful that if you don't think that the content is new, that you actually give some more specific information to say there are some specific studies from, let's say, Sean Harper that might be helpful in discussing or developing additional evidence for your argument. And then what should they do with this information? The program would be more applicable if the authors would describe what they would do instead of just this program could use a rewrite. Being very specific and taking the time to give actionable feedback would be important. Respecting the coordinated presenters and their colleagues and making sure that we focus on that scholar practitioner aspects. The program needs to be well written and have content that is supported by references and or data that demonstrates the program has solid content. So some of the questions you should ask yourself when you're reading: do you believe in the program content? What can you do to help the authors improve their content? Would you want to go to that session? Would you want to receive the review that you write? You want to make sure that as you're reading those programs that you have an opportunity to take time to reread what you've written so that you can ask yourself these questions. The online review process, the call for reviewers, is out now. You should have received, if you are a NASPA member, you should have received an email from Jason Pina and Penny Rue to ask you to be a reviewer. As mentioned, you'd fill out the online questionnaire. And then what we do is we take the time to match the nearly 1,800 presenters with program presenters with about 1,100 reviewers. So altogether, each reviewer receives about 8 to 10 programs, and each program receives about 8 to 9 reviewers. So it's a very thorough process. Pre-con review is September 6th through the 17th, an online review over 2 weeks. And the regular program review will take place September 12th through October 1st. Each reviewer will receive anywhere between 7 and 10 programs. I know it says 9 on the screen, but it'll probably be 10 programs. And that you can both review and submit programs. So if you're on this and you're thinking, can I submit a program and review? Yes, you can definitely do that. We will not assign you to review your own program, but we will make sure that you can get programs that connect with your content area and with your expertise. As mentioned, we will make sure that all the programs are reviewed multiple times, and every program type has a different set of questions. So if you review Essay Speaks, it's going to be a different set of questions than if you are reviewing a poster session. So make sure that you take time to read what kind of program you're reviewing, because if you sign up to review multiple programs, you'll want to make sure that each one of those program areas are answered appropriately. It's important to note that reviewer comments will be shared with coordinating presenters with no identifying information, which means it's a single blind review. The reviewer knows who the presenter is, but the presenter doesn't know who the reviewer is. Every reviewer will be asked to make a final assessment, accept with improvements, or reject. Presenters don't see this final assessment, just the conference leadership committee, because once that happens, we will actually meet in October in Washington, D.C., and the conference leadership team will make sure that we review all of the reviews in order to accept around 800 programs into the 2019 conference itself. So I'm going to back up on the slide just a minute because I ended up on the question slide, but I want to see if there's any other questions that we have. So Jace, I don't know if we have some questions from the audience.
Yeah, well, one question that someone has is, does it matter what professional level you are? Does it matter if you're a grad student or if you're a senior student affairs officer? Does that matter at all when it comes to being a program reviewer?
It doesn't actually, because if you fill out your program reviewer profile and indicate that you're a graduate student, you will be matched with programs that connect with your identity as well as any other experience that you have. So depending on what your content area is or your target area, that will be how we will actually help you assign you to different programs.
All right, very cool. So in case any of you missed it, lagging on late, the way that you can send in questions is through your questions box there. So just go ahead and open it up and type them in. Another one that's come in, it says, once you have completed your reviewer program type and updated your reviewer profile, is your application considered complete?
It is. It is. Once you've completed your profile, saved all your preferences, that will be considered complete. We will be sending emails to those selected for reviewers in early September, right after the program deadline, which is September 4th. And we will send those emails out to folks to let you know that you've been selected to be a reviewer. And shortly thereafter, in mid-September, you will receive an email that has your programs in the body of the email. Each one of the programs, you click on a link to be able to open up the program on a program to be able to read, and then you can then click on the review process, which is a another online portal to be able to enter your review. A recommendation is to print off all of your programs and take a read through them before you actually go in and review. If you take some time to read through your programs before you review each individual one, you'll be able to see the differences between a really great program and one that may need a little bit more TLC. So I recommend that you print off all of the programs, take a read through, maybe write some things on by longhand onto the pieces of paper, and then go in and review them online.
So we're going old school with the program reviews then, I hear.
Exactly.
All right, so another question, are we usually in need of program reviewers? Do we fall short on how many program reviewers we need to complete the reviews?
We are always in need of program reviewers because the more program reviewers we have, the better the programs are reviewed. We usually get about 1,100 program reviewers. I know that we are currently in need of more. So if you have friends and colleagues who you haven't heard that have signed up to be a reviewer yet, if you could encourage them to do so. We definitely need program reviewers and we need them to complete their reviews as well. We often have people who sign up and either it falls off of their radar or we know that there are other things that come up, but we do need a lot of folks to review these programs. So if you sign up, please ensure that you actually complete your program reviews by the deadline.
Yeah, sure. And something else I'll just add is, people sometimes wonder, okay, so what's in this for me? If I'm going to be a program reviewer, like what do I actually get out of
Mm-hmm.
that? And I know one thing you alluded to in the very beginning is that you really get a sense of the different types of things that people are doing on campuses. I mean, if you think about it, like you're going to get the opportunity to read up to 10 different programs that correspond to work your colleagues are doing across the field, which is a
Mm-hmm.
really cool way to see what else is out there, particularly if you know, have some interest in things that may be outside of like your individual professional area, and you expand to learn other things and read other things, that will be really cool for you to actually see what else is happening out there in the student affairs profession.
Definitely. And this is something you can put on your resume as a program reviewer for the annual conference for NASPA. If you need specific information for your tenure process, if you're a faculty member and you're reviewing scholarly papers, we can also provide you letters that say that you were a reviewer as long as you've completed all of your program reviews.
There we go. So there's no other questions that have come through. So I just want to say thank you, Stephanie, for the great information today. I know I am looking forward to reading some reviews this upcoming September. So yes, I will be on the
Great.
lookout for them myself.
Thank you so much, Jace. Thanks, everyone.
All right, everyone, have a great day, and we'll let you know when the recording is available for you to watch. Thanks so much.